everyone, my name is Dervilia and I'm Dublin's historian in residence for children. So I'm going to be spending the next year working with lots of children around the city on projects about our local history and our social history. So hopefully I'll get to meet lots of you and I'm really looking forward to that. Today actually, some of the young historians of Dublin have sent me in some history questions. So I'm going to have a look at them now and I'm going to do my best to answer them for you.
Hi Dervilia, my name's Maria. I would like to ask a question. Did the Romans come to Ireland or did they just come as far as Britain? Thanks.
Hi Maria, thanks for your question. So the Romans did invade Britain, but they didn't come as far as Ireland. And we're not really too sure why, so sometimes the historians kind of disagree about why that is. But they didn't invade Ireland, and we know that they did do a lot of trading with people in Ireland, and we found lots of objects around the country like Roman coins and things like that around Ireland, so we know that they were kind of interacting with Ireland a bit, but no, they didn't invade Ireland.
Who was the first leader of the IRA?
Yeah, so there's been a few different organisations throughout Irish history known as the IRA, so there's been kind of a few different ones. And the very first organisation to have that name, they're sometimes known as the original IRA or the original Irish Republican Army, and that was during the War of Independence, so it was 100 years ago from now. And the leaders of that original IRA were Children Dervilia and Michael Collins and Cathal Brugha, and they were fighting for Ireland to become independent from British rule.
Hi Dervilia, my name is Cecilia. I have a question for you. At the moment, I'm reading a book about the famine at school. My question is, was there a famine in Dublin or was it just in the countryside? Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks Cecilia. So yeah, the famine, as you probably know, affected pretty much the whole country, all of Ireland, but it was, most people do consider it to have been much worse in the countryside. So there were parts of Ireland that were really badly affected by the famine. And Dublin wasn't really as affected quite as badly, and actually for that reason a lot of people moved into Dublin from the countryside around that time. But in saying that, Dublin still had a lot of poverty, there were still some really bad living conditions here for a lot of people, so it still wasn't really a great place to be at that time in the 19th century for most people. But the famine didn't quite affect it in the same way as it did a lot of other parts of Ireland.
Did you actually, when you trespassed into Dublin Castle, did you actually get your head chopped off and stuck on a fence outside?
Yes, so that is probably true, yeah. Dublin Castle is a medieval castle. It was built by the Normans, and it was fairly common practice in a lot of medieval castles to have heads on spikes outside them, and it was usually a way of kind of warning people. So they would be like kind of a criminal or something that had been captured, beheaded, and they'd put the spike on a fence outside to warn other people not to do the same thing. And it was probably also kind of like a symbol of authority or power, like to show that the people in the castle had kind of control over the area. And it definitely happened at places like Dublin Castle and around the city centre where the original medieval city was. So it could have well happened at Dublin Castle as well, because that's kind of from roughly around the same time.
Hi Dervilia, what moment in history would you go back to if you could time travel?
So that's a really good question. That's kind of the hardest question of all. I suppose if I could time travel, I might go back to the early Christian time in Ireland, because that's one of my favourite periods of history. So this is kind of like from the 5th century up to kind of about the 10th century. And at that time in Ireland, there were lots of monasteries around. It's sometimes known as the Golden Age in Irish history. And one of the things I'm really interested in is all of the art that they used to make. So they used to make things like manuscripts and metalwork objects that you might have seen around the National Museum, and high crosses and things like that. So I'd love to go back and speak to the people who made those and see what it was like at that time. They were great questions. Thanks so much, guys, and hopefully I'll get to see you soon at some of the projects I'll be running. So thanks for sending in those questions, and if anyone else is interested in asking me more questions or getting involved in any way, please feel free to email me. My email address is residency@dublincitycouncilculturecompany.ie, and I'd love to hear from any of you who want to get involved. So really looking forward to meeting some of you soon. Bye.